we do without a transport system. Fine. Then let's look at some kind of transport system that can run maybe without oil, maybe with some other kind of thing or whatever. Let's look at an alternate transport kind of system, and also let's look at the past about how things were done before we had petrol. And it's very difficult to look at the future, but it's very easy to look at the past. And then we find these animal-driven, animal-powered transport systems, which may not be too bad an idea to have some of those things around, even if not on our main roads, on feeder routes, maybe to transport vegetables, rice to the main road, something like that, you know. So we can look at a few things like that. Pushpalata is looking at the possibility of an education system, because if there's some kind of a crisis, we don't have fuel, we can't sustain the current educational system. If we don't find a way to transmit the knowledge that we have, the cultural values that we have to the generations down the line, we may turn out to be something like animals. So that is something we have to look at. Then the whole question of medicine. It's amazing. The amount of medicines that we consume, it's really amazing. And imagine if you don't have a pharmacy around the corner, it's going to be a little difficult. So then the question of drugs, can we manufacture those kinds of drugs? Or should we look at like Larry's grandfather, people who could, find medicines from the environment, or like Pushpalata, she'll get some leaves or something and sort out most of your problems, right? So maybe we have to look like that. So we have to look at this system. So one of the things that the foundation is going to do is look at the systems and see whether there are ways by which we can keep those systems running under adverse conditions. And we know something about the adverse conditions, what kind of adverse conditions are likely or possible. We know RRD, resource deployment, global climate change, voluntary collapse, and a situation where we have dropped the growth model of development, which means how do we support 7 billion people? Then, okay, so now we have, let us say we know that we have got to make some kind of change, everybody knows it, but how do we sort of make people do that change? That's a question that Larry was raising. How do we transform this situation? Very good question. I've been looking at that. Again, it's very easy to look backwards. Looking forward takes a lot of time, a lot of trouble, a lot of thought, a lot of energy. When you look backwards, you find that in the early part of the last century, this American consumerist society suddenly emerged. You see, the so-called American dream and all that big consumption and all that emerged. And okay, so I studied, okay, how did this thing emerge? Apparently it didn't emerge like that. Apparently it was engineered. And it was engineered by a guy called Edward Bernays, who happened to be a nephew of Sigmund Freud and a very eager student of Freud's work. And he apparently was able to influence the American business establishment, got very friendly with the American president, and started a thing called public relations, which actually then became social engineering and brought in this whole American way of life, which has accelerated and brought us more or less to the situation that we are in today. So if he could do it in that direction, perhaps if we study that process, we can take it in another direction. And the basic, the dynamic that he has used is what we would call perceptual modification, mass perceptual modification. Now, that same thing has been used by people like Hitler as well, very effectively in their kind of direction. But there is no need, I think, to get afraid. Just because this has been used in the past in a negative sense, there is no reason why perceptual modification should not be used in a positive sense and in a positive direction in the future. So there is something that from the field of psychology, we can actually look at very, very seriously. So these are some of the thinkings that I've been engaged in over the last 3 years. That's it, just 3 years. And I'm looking at the possibility of taking it forward. And yes, so my whole interest in climate change comes because I have identified this climate change as one of the major problems, one of the really major problems that we have got to face. You were talking about the precipitation and the difficulty of surviving in that kind of condition. Yes, I agree, it's not too good. And the fact that the ice is melting right before our eyes kind of makes it a very immediate problem. You can't refreeze that ice, at least I don't know how to do it. And I am a little more concerned about the heating, because this 2-degree rise which you said, yes, it's fun, but I have no way of guaranteeing that this is going to rise at a particular speed. You see, or that it will hold at a plateau level. Everything I have read is not enough to convince me that we can predict how this thing is going to rise. For all I know, it could jump suddenly, like a tsunami. When I was a kid, I was always told, don't worry, this geological tectonic plate movement is a 1 millimeter a year process, no problem. It's not going to worry you at all. And then in 2004, you saw it jumped 60 meters, just like that. So that means the way we are looking at things is, I think, not quite right. We haven't got in touch with reality. We've got some other stuff. Okay, it is moving, no doubt about it. Convection currents, driving plates and all that, great. Atmosphere is going on the boil, fine. But we cannot say with any kind of certainty exactly how it's going to behave. It could do something very surprising, which could be very unpleasant at the same time. So I think the best we can do is look at possibilities, because we have the capacity to look at possibilities, and try to work out some kind of responses. And a lot of these responses are not going to be what we could call material responses, because we have rapid resource depletion already. But it would be psychological responses in terms of how we understand and see the world, and therefore how we respond to the world, and also organizational responses in terms of how we organize ourselves for survival. Now these are also areas which I use very frequently in the field of management consultancy, because lots of people know very little about organizations, organizational structures, how they work, how they actually structured. And in the field of organizational development also, there's a very interesting thing which I'm using for this. Now if you look at our entire civilization, this global civilization that we have, and we're very proud of this global civilization, we think it's a great achievement. It rests on a particular organizational structure which you could very easily call the hierarchical pyramid. Wherever you look, you find that, right? Oh, but over the last 20 years, people have been talking about networks now, these global networks and disaster management networks and all kind of stuff like that, networks. But it's very interesting because networks seem to be present in nature. A lot of organic material has a network kind of structure and behaves also like a network. And networks seem to have a funny way of multiplying the input. I don't know how it does it, but the input seems to somehow get multiplied when it becomes an output. The speed of internal functioning is quite different to what you see in a hierarchical structure. So I think we have to spend some time studying this kind of network sort of a thing and how it behaves, and whether we can use the network in combination with mass perceptual modification to actually create a kind of a strategic function for the global developmental process, which may then be able to pull us in some kind of a direction that mitigates the contradiction that has developed now between ourselves, the environment, and some other things that we have created. So with those kind of thoughts, I'd like to leave you, and if there's anybody else who'd like to say something, for sure. Otherwise, Pushpa, you can do what you want to do next.